but the service to Krishna is pleasurable. So there you have it. If you feel that in your endeavours to serve Krishna you have to work with someone who's unreasonable, crazy, or you can't go on with them, whatever, then Prabhupada said that is our penance, that we have to do that. We can take anxiety for this pleasure of Krishna. So because we have an international society, then we have not only people from different parts of the world with different languages, different cultures, but we have people from all different classes of life. Some people come from like a working class, some people come from middle class or upper middle class, higher class. So because Krishna consciousness is the higher goal, that's the common denominator, when we keep Krishna in the center, then we can do these things ordinarily. In materialistic platform, such people would never mix. Certain races wouldn't even mix sometimes, or certain types of people. So ISKCON really is a worldwide organization. And it's interesting because you might find in your journey in Krishna consciousness you associate with so many people you would never expect to have met in your life. And Krishna is very pleased that we do that. Sometimes that can be amazing, you meet some amazing people, it's inspiring. And sometimes it can be a challenge because there's so many differences, different way of thinking, etc. But if we're all thinking how to serve Krishna, then that is the pleasure we take from it, is taking that pleasure. Prabhupada described how he had left his peaceful life in Vrindavan to take on so much burden and anxiety for Krishna. Just as he had taken risk by going to America in old age, so his disciples should accept whatever difficulties were required in preaching Krishna consciousness. The work is not pleasurable, Prabhupada said, but making so many devotees is pleasurable. So here Prabhupada is saying that this is the goal, is to spread Krishna consciousness and make devotees, give Krishna consciousness to other people, to share Krishna consciousness. And it might not be very pleasurable having to do that. But the pleasure is in doing it, and is in achieving the goal. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, entitled The Activities of Maharaj Priyavrata, the text 13.
14.
Yad
Yad
Vachi Tantyam Guna
Guna
Karma
Karma
Damavi
Damavi
Yad Vachi Tantyam Guna Karma Damavi
Yadvachi Tantyam Guna Karma Damavi
Sudustaraya
Sudustaraya
Vatsa
Vatsa
Vayam
Vayam
Suyojita
Suyojita
Sudustaraya Vatsa Vayam Suyojita
Sudustaraya Vatsa Vayam Suyojita
Sarve
Sarve
Ramo Valim Ishwaraya Sarve Amo Valim Ishwaraya
Sarve Bahamo Valim Ishwaraya
Prota
Prota
Nashiva
Nasiva Pade
Chatus
Chatus
Pada
Pada
Protana Siva Dipade Chatus Pada
Protana Siva Dvipade Chatus Pada
Yadvachitam Jam Guna Karma Damavi
Yadvachi Tantyam Guna Karma Damavi
Sudustaraya Vatsa Vayam Suyojita
Sudustarayarvatsa Vayam Suyojita
Sarvivahamo Balamishvaraya
Sarvevahamo Padim Ishvaraya
Utana Shiva Vipade Chatuspada
Rotana Siva Vipade Chatuspada Yadvachitantyam Gunakarmadamabihi Sudustarayarvatsa Vayam Suyojita Sarvevahamo Balimishvaraya Rotana Shiva Vipade Chatuspada Sudustarayarvatsa Vayam Suyojita Sarvevahamo Balim Ishvaraya Protana Siva Vipade Chatuspada Yadvachitantyam Gunakarmadamabi Sudustarayarvatsa Vayam Suyojita Sarvevahamo Balimishvaraya Rotana Siva Dvipade Chatuspada Yadvachitantyam Gunakarmadamabi Sudastarayarvatsa Vayam Suyojita Sarvevahamo Balimishvaraya Rotana Shiva Dvipade Chatuspada Yadvachitantyam Gunakarmadamabi Sudustarayarvatsa Vayam Suyojita Sarvevahamo Balimishvaraya Rotana Siva Dvipade Chatuspada Yadvachitantyam Gunakarmadamabi Sudustarayarvatsa Vayam Suyojita Rotana Shiva Dvipade Chatuspada
Yat of whom? Vachi
Vachi
of, so in the form of Vedic instruction.
to the form of Vedic instruction.
Santyam
Tantyam
to a long rope.
to a long rope.
Guna
Guna
of quality.
quality.
Karma
Karma
and work.
and work.
Damabi
Damabi
by the ropes.
by the ropes.
Dustarai
Sudustarai
very difficult to avoid.
very difficult to avoid.
Vatsa
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 my dear boy.
my dear boy.
Vayam
Vayam
we
we
Suyojita
Suyojita
are engaged.
are engaged.
Survey
Sarve all
Vahamana
Vahama
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 carry out
carry out
Balim
Balim
orders to please him.
orders to please him.
Ishtaraya
Ishvaraya
to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
unto the Supreme Personality.
Prota
Prata
bound
being bound.
Nasi
Nasi
in the nose. Diva
Diva
like
like
Dvipade
Dipade
to the two-legged
to the two-legged
driver.
driver.
Chatupada
Chaturpada
the four-legged bulls. Translation, my dear boy, all of us are bound by the Vedic injunctions to the divisions of Varnashram according to our qualities and work. These divisions are difficult to avoid because they are scientifically arranged. We must therefore carry out our duties of Varnashram Dharma like bulls obliged to move according to the direction of a driver pulling on ropes knotted to their noses. Please repeat, my dear boy.
Dear boy,
All of us are bound by the Vedic injunctions
all of us are bound by the Vedic injunctions
to the divisions of Varnashram
to the divisions of our ashram
according to our qualities and work.
according to our qualities and work.
These divisions are difficult to avoid
These divisions are difficult to avoid
because they are scientifically arranged.
because it's arranged.
We must therefore carry out our duties of Varnashram Dharma,
We must therefore carry out our duties of Varnashram Dharma,
like bulls obliged to move according to the direction
like bulls obliged to move according to the direction
of a driver,
of the driver,
pulling on ropes knotted to their noses.
putting on ropes knotted to their noses.
As purport. In this verse, the word Tantyam, Guna, Karma, Dhamma, Vi are very important. We each get a body according to our association with the gunas, the qualities or modes of material nature, and we act accordingly. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the four orders of the social system, namely Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, are arranged according to Guna and Karma, their qualities and work. There is some controversy about this, however, because some say that since one receives the body according to the Guna and Karma of his past life, it is one's birth that determines his social status. Others say, however, that one's birth according to the Guna and Karma of his past life is not the essential consideration, since one can change his Guna and Karma in this life. Thus they say that the four divisions of the social order, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, should be arranged according to the Guna and Karma of this life. This version is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by Narada Muni. While instructing Maharaj Yudhishthira about the symptoms of Guna and Karma, Narada Muni said that these symptoms must govern the division of society. In other words, if a person born in the family of a Brahmin has the symptoms of Shudra, he should be designated as a Shudra. Similarly, if a Shudra has Brahminical qualities, he should be designated a Brahmin. The Varnashram system is scientific, therefore if we accept the divisions of Varna and Ashram, according to the Vedic instructions, our lives will be successful unless human society is divided and arranged and cannot be perfect. As stated in Vishnu Purana 3:9, Varnashrama Charavata Purushena Parapiman Vishnu Arad Ite Panta Nanyat Toshikaram. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashram. There's no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the four Varnas and Ashrams. All of human society is meant to worship Lord Vishnu. At the present moment, however, human society does not know that this is the ultimate goal or perfection of life. Therefore, instead of worshipping Lord Vishnu, people are being educated to worship matter. According to the direction of modern society, men think they can advance in civilization by manipulating matter to build skyscrapers, big roads, automobiles, and so on. Such a civilization must certainly be called materialistic because its people do not know the goal of life. The goal of life is to reach Vishnu, but instead of reaching Vishnu, people are bewildered by the external manifestation of material energy. Therefore, progress in material advancement is blind, and the leaders of such material advancement are also blind. They are leading their followers in the wrong way. It is best, therefore, to accept the injunctions of the Vedas, which are mentioned in these verses, Yad Vachi. In accordance with those injunctions, everyone should find out whether he is a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, and should thus be educated accordingly. Then he is likely to be successful. Otherwise, all of human society will be confused. If human society is divided scientifically according to Varna and Ashram, and if the Vedic directions are followed, one's life, regardless of his position, will be successful. It is not that Brahmins will be elevated to the transcendental platform, but not the Shudras. If the Vedic injunctions are followed, all of them, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, will be elevated to the transcendental platform and their lives will be successful. The injunctions in the Vedas are explicit directions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example cited in this verse is that bulls tied by ropes in their nostrils move according to the direction of the driver. Similarly, if we move according to the instructions of the Vedas, the perfect paths for our lives will be set. Otherwise, if we do not move in this way, in that way, but act according to our own ideas, our lives will be spoiled by confusion and will end in despair. Actually, because people at the present moment are not following the instructions of the Vedas, they are all confused. We must therefore accept this instruction by Lord Prabhupada as the factual scientific direction leading to the success in life. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 16:23. Shastra Vidim Utsrujya Vartate Kamkarata Na Nasasidim Avapnoti Nasukam Paramgatim. If we do not live according to the injunctions of the Shastra, the Vedas, we shall never achieve success in life, to say nothing of happiness or elevation to higher statuses of living. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhupada, Sri Prabhupada, Sri Prabhupada, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My dear boy, all of us are bound by the Vedic injunctions to the divisions of Varna according to our qualities and work. These divisions are difficult to avoid because they are scientifically arranged. We must therefore carry out our duties of Varna Dharma, like both obliged to move according to the direction of the driver and on ropes knotted to their noses. So Srila Prabhupada said that one should not be satisfied with remaining a Sudra. So in the purport he was saying that everybody can be elevated to the transcendental platform. So the Shastra has mentioned Guna Karma Vibhagasa, that one's nature is determined by their qualities and by their activities. So regardless of what one is born into, then it's the guna and the karma which determines which varna and ashram they should be in. That's one aspect of it. Of course, what has also been mentioned here is that sometimes people say because of our past life, according to the guna and karma of our past life, then we receive a particular body, and therefore they say that that is why birth is accepted as a dictating the varna and ashram. Now that might be correct. Well, it is correct according to when we say guna also means material modes of nature. So according to how we associate with the modes of material nature, that will determine our consciousness, and how we act, that will determine our future fortune. So therefore, it does say in Bhagavad Gita that for the unsuccessful yogi, they will take birth in a pious family, or like a Brahmin family, or in a mercantile family. Suchinam Shivatam Gehi Yoga Brashta Vijayate. So what to speak of anyone else, of course, but that gives them the opportunity. So the birth, according to our previous guna and karma, our qualities, our types of association of those of material nature and their activities, then we do get a birth. So it may be that one is born in a Brahmin family, but that's giving you the chance. So what you do with that chance is another thing. It's just like saying gambling, and then you win. And then you can decide, okay, now that I'm winning, let me put my money in my pocket, put it well ahead. But no, we know better, so we stick it all on the favourite to win, and then he comes in second and we lose it all. So the point is that basically we make a gamble. Okay, now that we've got this, we'll put it on this. But Anyway, the point is, maybe not exactly a very good analogy, but the point is that we have an opportunity, so we can take advantage of that opportunity and win, or we can take advantage of the opportunity and gamble with it and just think that what we did in our last life is good enough to carry us on. And we have to continue to act. So if one is given the opportunity to take birth in a Brahmin family, then we have a good opportunity, and what we do with that opportunity, that will determine what our future birth will be, because one may be a Brahmin in this life, but they could be a Sudra or an animal in the next life. And there's many stories of Brahmins becoming Buddhas, etc. So, so everyone is kind of born with an equal opportunity in the sense that whatever you're born into, whether it be Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Brahmin, then it's what you do with what you've got. Just like sometimes someone is born in a poor family, but because they're very careful with whatever, every penny that comes their way, then in due course of time the person becomes a millionaire, a multi-millionaire. Just like there was one old chap in Glasgow, the fruit market, Danny Coyle. He was very favourable to donating to the temple every week, and he had a lot of affection for the devotees. And he told me the story that basically he used to buy, he had very little money, he was from a very poor family, and typically, just like also my mother, she would tell me when she was young, they used to go to school in bare feet. And you can imagine going to school bare feet in Scotland in the winter. The kids had no shoes. So he was like that too. He had no shoes, he was from a poor family. But when he got a little money, he bought some fruit, and then he went and sold it. And then eventually he got enough money to buy a barrel. He took his barrel, he loaded it with fruit, he'd go to the market early in the morning, and then he'd go and sell it. And eventually he became a millionaire. And still he was counting his pennies because he knew the value of them. So he had an opportunity to remain poor all his life, or to be careful and utilise whatever came his way so that he increased his good fortune. So similarly, we may be born in apparently a low-born family, which is, in Kali Yuga, it's considered that everyone is Sudra or less. So mostly in the Western world, we're less. We're born into families of intellectuals, Kavitas, Yavanams, uncultured in the sense of the Vedic culture. We don't actually even know what is cleanliness. We don't know what is right, what is wrong. Therefore, there's so many speculative philosophies about the origin of life, and we build university courses about all these things. And Prabhupada mentions that these establishments of education are actually slaughterhouses of intelligence. Now, if they want to make it auspicious, then simply they have to create one department, which is what is the soul. If everybody understands what is the soul, then everything has value. But without that, it has no value. Just like sometimes they have these abandoned mansions of famous film stars, and the person is very famous, but they fell in hard times and they died, and nobody owns it, it's just lying there dilapidated. But if someone was to go in and occupy the place and put some effort into it, then it would have some value. So similarly, all the different departments in the educational or employment sector, if we add Krishna to them, if we add the spiritual aspect, the spiritual goal, then everything takes meaning. So without that, then everyone is worried. Simply, this is one life, this is the motto. You have one life, live it. So in this way, it doesn't really matter what you do to get ahead, as long as you and yours is looked after. But this will never bring peace, it will never bring any lasting peace. And simply, it's totally against the Ishavasya principle, which is that there is a supreme controller and proprietor. So therefore, even the no, like Prabhupada was talking here, instead of worshipping Lord Vishnu, they have become educated to worship matter. according to the direction of modern society, men think they can advance civilization by manipulating matter to build skyscrapers, big roads, automobiles, and so on. Such a civilization will certainly be called materialistic because its people do not know the goal of life, which is to meet Krishna. So even they know that the lifestyle that they have chosen, which is consumerism, they know that it's depleting the planet of so many resources. And there's a technology to have an alternative way of life, and still they want to help in destroying their own backyard. So for millennia, the planet was living in a sustainable way. One thing, first time I went to India, it's not so much prevalent now, although I think that's coming back again. But the first time I went, I was realizing that actually this wonderful land of India is the eternal recycling system. It's organic, so you'd eat your food on a leaf plate or a clay cup, and when you're finished, you just throw it away, and the cow would come along, or some other animal would come along and eat the plate, and the cup would just go into a pile of other cups, and then which is made of clay. It goes into the earth. After some time, they take that clay to make it again, and this has been sustaining for thousands of years. But then comes along following the Western civilization, which is made of plastic. So now previously they had a system which took care of everything because it was biodegradable. You get a leaf plate, and that created some employment for somebody. They just go and take some leaves somewhere, put them together with some straws, and then take it to someone. If someone has a little bit of land where they've got clay, they just make some pottery, and then finally they go and get it back again. So it's a circular economy. But then what happens is the Western influence means that no longer do they use these leaf plates, they use plastic cups, plastic plates, paper plates coated in plastic. And because they have no infrastructure to dispose of these things, then they still get thrown around. So it's not necessarily that the people are messy, but actually there's a clash of cultures. The original culture was sustainable, and because they don't have the infrastructure to deal with consumerism, then India looks like a garbage pile. There's some beautiful places in India, and you see garbage all over the place, plastic bags, things like that.
Okay.
But now actually the people of India are waking up, and they're beginning to value their own culture again. And even the Western countries, there's a big movement there to propagate sustainable industries, sustainable ways of life. And this is very good, especially amongst the young people. People are waking up to the needs of saving the planet and the needs of respecting nature and working with nature. So this is what the young people today are inheriting, that for some generations there's been a hedonistic society of consumerism, which is just creating a big pile of garbage all over the world. And people are getting rich for a few decades, and then they die and leave it all behind. What is the value of their wealth at the expense? So like this world can even be paradise on earth if we live in harmony with nature, and we live in harmony with the laws of nature. Of course, because we have a material body, there's always going to be karmic reactions. We have to suffer what is our due. But by practicing Krishna consciousness and accepting our law, then they can be satisfied. So this is one of the austerities in the mode of goodness, is to be satisfied. So this Varnashrama system is scientific. And Prabhupada says, if we accept the divisions of Varna and Ashrama according to the injunctions, our lives will be successful. Unless it's divided, then it cannot be perfect. So therefore, regardless of whether one is born in one family or another, then either we have to act according to if we're born in a family of Brahmin, but we don't feel inclined towards Brahminical qualities, then if we want to be considered a Brahmin, then we have to perform the austerity of acting like a Brahmin. And if we're born in a lower caste, then still we should aspire. Prabhupada says that we should aspire not to remain in our lower caste. But at the same time, Prabhupada mentions that here, that regardless of what one is born into, or what one is acting under, then if one acts according to one's prescribed duty and dovetails it for the service of Krishna, then it can be transcendentalized. So it's not that only one who's a Brahmin can become transcendental. Brahmin means one who knows Brahman or spirit, so they are meant to be the teachers. And that doesn't mean to say that they have a monopoly on spirit. It means that they distribute that to all the classes of people. And Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they came to transcendentalize every class, caste, or even outcast, as they're called. Normally, according to the Vedic system, many of us would be considered outcasts, not even in sutras. Because some of the nature of the Sudra is what? Anyone mention quality of Sudra?
Labors for others.
Labors for others. Anything else?
There's some sort of craftsmanship, various types of skills.
Yeah, they can be very skilled workers, they can be artists, musicians, etc.
Very diligent.
Diligent, they do their work very diligently, and so they can be expert. It's not that they're like some dumb animal or just a labour, a beast of burden, not like that. They can be very expert. And obedience also to the higher castes. So this obedience doesn't mean to say that they're subordinate, it means cooperation. All the castes have to cooperate with each other, just like the whole body. So the Varnashram system is considered to be like a body, where the Sudras are the legs, and the Kshatriyas are the arms which protect the body, the legs carry the body. The Vaishyas is the stomach that feeds the body. If you don't put the food out the stomach, the rest of the body doesn't get nourishment, so, and the brain directs the rest of the body. But if any of these parts of the body decide to do something different, then the whole thing is put into disarray. So if the legs decide, I'm just going to do my own thing, the mind says goes there, but I'm going here. I mean, it's not that it's so possible. Then it would be chaos. And this is what happens. The legs don't want to listen to any authority. Or the arms, they decide that they're not going to protect the body, then other parts of the body might get damaged, which will then in turn affect the arms. Or the Vaishya decide one thing or the. So in any case, it all works together. Naturally, the body works together, we don't even have to think about it. And even within modern societies, then we still have these divisions. Naturally, they're there, scientifically there. It's just that society demands these posts to be fulfilled, whether the people are qualified or not. Now, they may have some qualification and they can improve that qualification. If they read Bhagavad Gita, they'll see what the qualities of these different ashrams are, and these different varnas, and they'll be able to improve. So there's so many books of self-improvement. If you read Bhagavad Gita, that is the ultimate book of self-improvement. It's the ultimate positive thinking book. You see Arjuna, he was in such a quandary, but when he listened to Krishna, then he was able to do his duty with full enthusiasm and courage. So we see that we do have people who are naturally inclined towards certain work. So if you take someone who's, for example, a joiner and ask him, okay, now you become a farmer. Say, I don't know anything about farming and I'm not interested. Or you say, okay, now you become a soldier. I say, well, I'm not really interested in that. Well, why don't you just run the country? He says, I'm not interested in politics. Sometimes people don't even want to vote because they just find it too confusing or they don't find it to trust people. And similarly, if you take someone who's acting as a government leader and you ask them to be a farmer or to put a shovel in their hand or put on welly boots, they might do it for a photograph, for the report. which is all right, but in terms of getting a job like that, it's not their nature. Their nature is a different thing altogether. So it's not that one group should criticise another. We should actually see that we all need these different parts in society, just as we need all the parts of the body for the body to be complete. Society naturally dictates the need for these different parts. If we say, okay, let's have labourers, artists, musicians, etc., skilled workers, even a surgeon, so let's have Vaishyas, and let's have Brahmins, but let's not bother with any Kshatriyas. Then somebody will think, some neighbouring country will think, great, let's go and take over these guys. And people will have that nature of protecting. It's just according to their nature. So as we say, it might not have all the qualities in perfection as to what the Bhagavad Gita prescribes, but some qualities will be there and we can improve on those. And if we put Krishna in the middle, then all of these things can be done as a transcendental service to Krishna. An artist can serve Krishna. Someone who's a salesman can sell for Krishna. Someone can grow for Krishna. We can cook for Krishna. We can protect for Krishna. We can protect the cows, protect the innocent citizens. And we can manage things. We can administer things for the peaceful society. We can do that for the sake of serving other members in Krishna consciousness. So it can all be done like that in this way. It's all on the transcendental platform, and Krishna views any service as being devotional service, transcendental. So we shouldn't think that better that I do another service. If we do a prescribed duty, then that is parampara, that is authorized, and then it's connected with Krishna. But if someone prescribes something, we think, well, let me do something else, then that is not connected. So it's scientific because people follow their nature. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, everyone follows their nature, what can repression accomplish? So what we have to do is, part of self-realization is to understand our nature and utilize it in Krishna's service. So because Prabhupada says here that because people are not following the injunctions or instructions of the Vedas, then they're confused. So similarly, when we start to follow the instructions of the Vedas, then confusion is dispelled. We will be full of knowledge. So it's our duty as members of the Krishna Consciousness Society to pass on this message. Prabhupada says that even if 1% of the population becomes Brahmin, then the whole world will be benefited. So that 1% is no small thing. And it's not that everybody should become a Brahmin in the sense that their duty, because then who's going to grow the food? And sometimes people say this, well, if we all come and join the temple, then how is the world going to survive? And that's not what we're saying. The Varnashram Dharma is there for that purpose. The world carries on. We need roads, we need people growing food, we need people who build houses, we need doctors, we need hospitals, we need all these things, we need administrators, we need the armed forces for protection, we need a police force. All these things are necessary in society. And if people can learn to appreciate the need for these, appreciate the valuable service that everybody's doing, then that would be a great step forward. Interesting, I'll finish with one short story. Is some years ago, one devotee was telling me that, because he was in charge of the Gurukul in Mayapur, and he was saying that all the parents put their kids into Gurukul, and they're all thinking that their little Krishna dance and Radharani dance are all going to be Brahmins. He says, but human society, it's only at most 1% is Brahmins. So if there's 100 kids, they'd be lucky if there's one Brahmin amongst them. He says, but they want to, and then they get upset, if they see that they've been recommended that a kid is actually a Shudra. And that's not a discussion. A Vaishnava can act in any category. So sometimes as a devotee, We may be on the altar, we may be cooking for Krishna, we may be worshipping the deities, and other times we may be fundraising. So we've got a Brahmin, and then fundraiser would be, could be a Vaishya. Which would it be? Yeah, we could be.
Mixture.
Yeah.
Mixture of both.
Depends how you raise your funds, maybe. Yeah, we could be another time we may be doing gardening, or maybe cleaning the toilet, maybe fixing a road, maybe sweeping the temple. So if you put it into Varnashram Dharma, then these are in different categories. But as we see it as service to Krishna, then we're just crossing over the Vaishnava. He will cross over all these borders, and he's not restricted to serve Krishna. So therefore, Prabhupada said that we should do the needful. So sometimes we're not even necessarily suited. It's like you might find yourself on the street, shouting boots and trying to raise funds, and you think, oh, I'm not very good at this. But it's purifying for us, for one thing, and it's very pleasing to Prabhupada and to Lord Chaitanya. We make so much spiritual advancement from that. We make so much purification from that. And then at other times we might find ourselves doing something else. But whatever we do, there will always be some austerity involved in it, because that is the nature of living in the material world. There's also austerity, and ultimately, if we keep on changing our service because it's too austere, we come to the point where we have to realise that actually it's the mind, which is actually the real barrier, the uncontrolled mind, which is placing limitations on us. So if we just keep on pushing through, whenever we come across some barrier, keep on pushing through, keep on serving, and Krishna will give us the intelligence by which we can come to him. So even if we feel like we have no qualification, that's a good starting point. Srila Prabhupada had his own personal example. He used to consider himself rule number one. Now, of course, we don't think he is, and we see that he's so qualified, but he genuinely felt like that. So to feel that we're a fool or we're unqualified is not a bad thing, but it should be not to make us depressed. So if we've got too much false ego, then we think, oh, people won't look at me as great as I think I should be seen. I really want to be seen as something important, but because I'm not very qualified, I get negative. No, we shouldn't be like that. It should be a case of, okay, I don't appear to have much qualifications, but Krishna is very kindly still engaging me in devotion service. So even if our whole life is spent feeling disqualified materially, if you're spending it serving Krishna, that is a big qualification. And everybody has some qualifications. So sometimes we'll get to do some services that we're good at and that we like to do. And sometimes we'll get to do services we're good at but we don't even like doing it. Sometimes we do service we don't like doing, and we're maybe good at it, or sometimes we're doing service we don't like doing and we're not very good at it. But it doesn't really matter. What's important is that we just endeavour. Krishna says, in this endeavour there is no loss or diminution. So in this way we don't get to place a material conception, material limitation, material qualification or material estimation on devotional service. So we should be open to do any type of service and rise to the challenge. Actually, Prabhupada wanted us all to learn a bit of everything so that we could go and open centres, and we've seen every devotee should learn to do some kirtan, how to give a class, how to cook a little bit, etc. In this way, we can be fully resilient to serve Krishna in any circumstances. And this is a great blessing that as a Vaishnava, we're not confined to any particular type of varna or ashram, because the eternal thing is devotional service. Varna and the ashram are temporary, and that's there to help us engage our nature somewhat in Krishna service. But a Vaishnava will go further than that. Any questions or comments or corrections?
I was thinking about the Rana Shrama. For example, when we are in the month of a woman at a temple, is it already predicted that to which varnashrama we will belong? For sure, Krishna, he knows, but we don't know, and parents also, they don't know. Or is it later when we take birth that the circumstances in the material world also have some influence on the varnashrama and your education in the family? Or is it already clear in the womb as an embryo?
Yeah, so just like we were saying, is that there's a certain, so basically we're discussing predetermination and free will. This is the question. Would anybody else like to comment on that? Anything we know about predetermination and free will? So the predetermination is that according to what we've done in our past life, then we find ourselves in the womb of a certain mother. And Yam Yam Vapi Smaram Bhava, whatever we think of the time of death, that's the will attain. And it's explained in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna that according to what we've cultivated in this life, next life, then we will have a certain type of eye, nose, mouth, etc. So it may be an animal body, whatever, but if it's in a human form, then that is also predetermined as to where we will take birth, what parents we will have, what education we will have. So our vidya, our knowledge, our kula, our learning, our birth, these things actually will determine materially to some degree what opportunities we'll get. Just like if you're born into a poor family and you don't have the opportunity for such a good education, you might not find yourself doing a PhD in physics. You might find yourself doing another type of occupation or pursuing something else. But it doesn't mean to say that you couldn't. If you wanted to, you'd have to try harder. But someone who's born into a situation which gives them opportunity for that, it's easier for them. So they've made some austerity in the previous life. So there are examples in the Shastra where someone, for example, Vidura, he was born as the son of a Sudrani, but he actually he was elevated to the position of Vaishnava or Brahmin. So it says that when a Brahmin is actually pure, then he becomes a Vaishnava. Vaishnava is higher than that. And then there are other examples where Jagai and Madai, they were born into a Brahmin family, but they were such debauchees they become disqualified. So the birth gives an opportunity, but and some births give better opportunity than others. But then the free will is there to actually make the opportunities, to seize the opportunities and create opportunities as well. So just like many of us, many thousands of people in the West were born into families which were less than Sudra, but by Prabhupada's arrangement, by him creating such a good fortune for us, then we've become given opportunity to be Brahmins or Vaishnavas. We consider ourselves Vaishnavas, but when we see what the actual behavior of a Vaishnava is, and actually we're aspiring to be Vaishnavas. We shouldn't just rubber stamp ourselves as Vaishnavas. Now that we're Tilak, I'm a Vaishnava, I'm better than any Brahmin. So, and then we walk around prouder than any Brahmin. So that's not the point. Prabhupada is giving us the opportunity. So just like any type of the typical question of predetermination and free will is that perhaps your predetermination is to suffer in some way, and how you respond to that suffering, that is your free will. You can blame someone else or whatever, because there's two causes for the suffering. One is the immediate cause, which means, say you get hit by a car, you might blame the driver of the car for hitting you. That's the immediate cause. So we can do it like that. But the remote cause is if we did something in a past life that put me in a position to get hit by that car. So if we can accept the remote cause, then it's much easier, it's much more elevated way of thinking. We're not blaming someone else, and we're accepting our lot, we accept our karma. And Lord Brahma states that one who patiently accepts the reactions to past deeds whether they be good or whether they be bad, because we still have to tolerate the distractions. If you get really good karma, that can be a distraction. You may be very wealthy or very handsome, or you may have a very nice singing voice, but that could be a distraction because everyone say, "Oh, you've got such a wonderful voice," and everyone say, "Oh, yes, I know it's only about time everybody recognised me." So if we have some material opulence and people glorify it for us, that can be a distraction. So good karma can also be a distraction in spiritual life. Bad karma means suffering. So if we just try to remember that whatever we've got, we do our best to serve Krishna. And if we want to take the praise for things, but we want to avoid the blame, then that's a path to unhappiness, really. An example I gave before was that one time I came out of, I think it was the first time I went to Vrindavan. I came out of Krishna Balaram temple, and there was one young lady there. She was leper, and she was begging, but she had such an ecstatic smile on her face, and her smile was just so much full of knowledge that it was a happiness I'd never seen even in the Western world, with all the facilities it has. They could not manufacture such happiness, and you can see that she had accepted her lot, and she was feeling very fortunate to be in Krishna's land in this materially unfortunate circumstance, but being able to just be outside Krishna's temple and receiving prasadam or getting some bakshish, some donations for charity. And that person actually had so much more wealth that you could never find, you could never manufacture in the Western world. So that was such a great example that even though she was in a suffering condition, undoubtedly you had leprosy, but she'd risen above it. She'd accepted it was her lot, and she accepted the spiritual path, which led her to be blissful even in a material suffering condition. So I hope that answers it. Does anyone like to add anything to that? Anything else before we finish? Let's go to the key.
Yeah.
Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.
Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Yeah.
Prabhupada,
Prana Prabhu ki.